Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Doss here, and welcome back to another Animal Crossing tier list. We're getting to the tail end of these tier lists, and then I can go on the hunt for Anka. So today we are looking at Jock villagers. Jock's an interesting personality type, in my opinion, because there's a lot of villagers I think shouldn't belong in the Jock personality. But regardless, there's quite a few good Jocks, which is surprising, to be honest. So the first Jock that we're going to be starting off with is Antonio. Before we start, I do gotta say, again, at the start of every one of these are all my opinions. It's fine if you have something different. We all have our own tastes, our own likes and dislikes. So, by all means, in the comments, tell me who your S tiers for Jocks are. I'd be happy to know. Alright, so Antonio, an Anteater. Got a pretty decent color palette, nothing too special. But because of that, I'm going to put him at a B tier. He's something that's in the middle. He's an Anteater that I think looks relatively good. He's got just the normal black eye, decent color palette, nothing special, nothing super amazing. Next up we have Axel. Axel's basically the same. The only thing I don't like about Axel is his eye. I think it's a bit too small, but his color palette's pretty nice. He looks very plain though, so I think he's going to be a B tier as well. Next up we have Bam. Bam actually looks really nice. I like the blue with the brown of his antlers, the yellow accents in his ears, and the orange eyes. I think Bam looks really nice. He looks a bit more unique with compared to his other his brethren in his species. So I'm gonna put him at an A tier. Next up we have Biff. For Hippo, Biff actually looks really good. I like the eye portioning with him. I like the color palette on him and everything. But he just looks a bit too plain for my taste. So Biff's going to be a B, but a high B. Next up we have Bill. I actually really like Bill. I think Bill's eyes work really well. His coloring works really well and everything. But he's a bit too basic as well. So I think Bill's going to be a B tier. Next up we have Billy. I actually like Billy. Billy's design looks really well. He's got his eyes closed and everything. The color palette's really nice, but he's still basic as well. I think a lot of these people are gonna be B. Next up, we have Boone. Instead of all the gorillas, I like Boone because he's a baboon. He's a pretty unique design for gorillas, so I'm gonna have to put Boone at an A. I think he works extremely well. Next up, we have Boots. I do like Boots, like patterning. It's like bubbles and stuff like that and coloring. But he's a bit too plain for my taste, considering the crocodile alligator type. So I'm gonna have to put him at a B tier as well. Next up, we have Buck. So Buck, I don't like the color palette on him, and I hate his eyes with the eyebrows and the markings around his eyes. Because of that, Buck's gonna be a C tier. I just don't like him, like, at all. And Bud, who's actually supposed to be before Buck. Bud, I actually like his design. He's a lion, and I don't like lions, but I do like the, like, theme. He's like a tourist, like, relaxing surfer dude. So because of that, he's gonna be... I like his colorings as well. Because of that, I'm gonna put him at an A. I think he really works. Even though I hate the lines, I think he works. Next up, we have Coach. Coach is a D tier. I hate everything about Coach. I hate his color palette. I hate that he's a piss yellow. I hate his 5 o'clock shadow. I hate how tiny his eyes are. I hate his hairpiece. It's just real bad. Real bad. Next up, we have Cobb. I actually kind of like the idea of Cobb. He's like a mad scientist. His color palette's a little bit weird, but I do like the glasses. I like his outfits. I think Cobb's gonna be... I think Cobb's gonna be a B tier, a high B tier. If his color palette was a bit different, he'd be higher up, but I think he's pretty good. Next up, we have Cousteau. I actually really like Cousteau. I think this color palette works really well. The eyes are a bit different. He's got a mustache and everything, but he's still a bit plain. I'm gonna put him at a B as well, but a high B. Next up, we have Curly. Curly is going to be a C tier. The main reason why Curly C tier is the eyes. I think the eyes just look horrible. The mouth is a bit too big, but like I do like the normal pig coloring, I like the rosy cheeks, I like the blue accents, but the face is just really weird. Next up, we have Dom. Dom's an S tier. Dom is just super adorable. I love the eyes. It works really well. The color palette of him as a ram, or sheep, whatever you want to call it, is really nice. I love his shirt. It's all the whole tie-dye thing. Weird that he's a jock, but he looks really cool, and he's very memeable. I think Dom is a solid S tier. Next up, we have Drift. Drift is going to be another B tier. Actually, no, I think Drift is going to be an A tier. His color palette's a bit more out there than Cousteau. I do like it. Everything like works really well. The eyes work really well. The mouth and the shape, the palette and the markings work really well. He's going to be like a low A tier. I think he's really good. Next up, we have Flip. Flip was the jock villager that I started with. Without any bias, Flip is going to be a B tier. I think he's a really good monkey, but he's a very safe monkey. He's like the type of monkey that you think of when you think of a monkey, but he's there's nothing wrong with him. And as a villager himself, he's really good. I like him. Next up, we have Frobert. Frobert's going to be another A tier. Kind of a similar like design, like pattern as the two previous frogs, but I do like the color palette. I love the eye and mouth combo. It looks very innocent and precious, and it works really well for the small stature of frogs. I think that works super well. Up next, we have Genji. I actually like Genji's design. Genji's design is super unique. Because of that, Genji's going to be an A tier, a very high A tier. I think Genji's super unique. It's super like pleasing. It's just nice overall. Next up, we have Goose the chicken. I think Goose is a B tier. Nothing super special about Goose. He's just a normal cut of the jib chicken. You can take him or you can leave him. Same thing with Hamlet. So Shenpai actually hates Hamlet for some reason, but I think Hamlet's a B tier. He also looks like the type of like villager you expect when you're thinking of a hamster. Nothing super special. Nothing bad though. So solid mid tier. Next up, we have Iggly. Iggly, unfortunately, is going to be a C. I like the coloring of Iggly and I like the cheeks, but the thing that doesn't fit well for me is the eyes. I think the eyes are just a bit too small and close together to really work. They're a bit like, it messes with the proportions quite a bit. Next up, we have Jay, the Blue Jay. He's going to be a B tier. He's very safe. He's a very safe design. He's a Blue Jay, but he looks really good. His color palette is just really nice. So he's a good high B tier. After that, we have Jitters. Jitters is a D tier. Jitters scares the crap out of me. Jitters looks like someone who is high off of cocaine and coffee, and I don't want to be anywhere around him. Next up, we have Kevin. I think Kevin's going to be an A tier. I think as pigs go, he's relatively unique. I've never seen a pig that looks like Kevin for the most part. I like his color palette. It works. It's like a weird like tiger pig thing. The eyes work really well. His outfit looks really good with them. I don't know. Like he's a low A, but Kevin's just hitting beats that I really like. Next up, we have Kid Cat. I think out of all these like racer hero things, I think Kid Cat's probably the best. I'm gonna say Kid Cat is a really, really high A. Like a racer Power Ranger type of thing. I think it works really well. The eyes work really well with the helmet. The color palette works really well with his suit and his actual fur. I think it looks fantastic. Next up, we have Cody. Cody's going to be a C tier because, again, the eyes. The color palette's nice. The pattern's nice. And the outfit's nice. He's like a cowboy type of thing. But his eyes are just too small. They don't fit like the proportions well enough. I think if they're a little bit bigger, at least if the irises, the pupils, the black dots basically, if they were bigger, it would have worked out a lot more in his favor. Next up, we have Leonardo. As these tigers go, I think he's pretty decent. As tigers go, I think he's pretty decent. the eye with like the bridge works well with the how wide the face is and the muzzle. He's like a cheetah. Oh no, he's a leopard, hence the Leonardo name. But he's in the tiger species. I think he works. He's like a solid middle of the road. Oh, these guys got replaced. I accidentally pressed back. I cut it out of the video, but these got replaced. Looks like D tier just gets sucked back down. Next up, we have Louis. Louis is gonna be a D tier. Not only is it like a typical gorilla color, but the face is just horrendous. Like it works with the baboon because of how like the colors really like bounce off the little small eyes and makes it like look really really unique, especially in the gorilla archetype. I just don't think it looks good. Next up we have Lyman. I think Lyman's a C tier. His color palette's interesting. Just not a huge fan of his eyebrows, but the eyes work really well. So I don't know. There's not enough to make him like a mid tier, but he's at least like a relatively high C. Next up we have Mac. I think Mac's a B tier as well. He's a good dog. He's not the best dog that there is, but I mean all dogs are good dogs, but you know. I just not a huge fan of his face. I know what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be like those like bulldogs, pit bull type of things, the schnauzers. But I don't know. It just doesn't work with me. But he's still a good middle of the road. I can take him or leave him. Unlike Moose, Moose is gonna be a C tier. Why? Because I hate his hair. I hate it. The face for Moose actually works really well for me. It's just the hair that I hate. It's like the typical like living in your mother's basement type of hairstyle that you would picture. I just don't like it. Next up we have Mott. I think Mott's a C tier. I do like the color of his mane, but I don't like the piss yellow. I hate his face. I hate the glasses. They're just not lions just don't work a lot. They're just not the best villager archetype. Next up we have Peck. Peck's gonna be a B tier alone for how creepy the eyes are. Color palette actually is very unique. It's like a brown with red eyebrows with bright white eyes and a white bottom, pink beak, and then like grayish bluish like body feathers. It's a very unique color palette. It's not my favorite design, but it's so weird and different that I think it deserves a B tier. Next up we have Pierce. I think Pierce is going to be a low B. I like the coloring. The eyes are just a bit off-putting. I don't like the line underneath matched with the yellow color of the eyes. Besides that, I like everything else. I think he works really well. I'd probably take him. Poncho. I think Poncho's a solid A tier. Poncho's the amount of cute that you'd want in a cub. The coloring's really nice. The eyes are what I would want. Like, this is what I mean, like what I would have wanted from these eyes. I think these eyes work far more. The hair works really well, especially with like the palette of the hair. I think it's a really, really good design. Next up, we have Ribbot, who I actually met on my Audi hunt. Ribbot's an S tier, just because of the gimmick of being a robot frog. There's quite a few robots. Oh, there's another robot in here as well. I think Ribbot's a really good villager just because of the gimmick. I think it's just super cool. Rald, even though I love him and in my heart he's an S tier, he's an A tier just because of how plain he is. I think just the fact that he looks like such a stupid person, he's a lazy villager. I mean, he's a jock. Works out really well. I love his dinner plate eyes, and I always love putting a Vietnam helmet on him, on Rolled. But he's just too plain to be an S tier. But I think he's got that memeable potential that he always has that brings up to A tier. Next up we have Rod. I actually like Rod a lot. Rod's going to be an A tier. Rod's designs are really nice. I think the swimming cap really like helps center out the weirdly shaped head that mice have. I love the color palette. I love the eye shape. I think it just works really well. Next we have Rory. I think Rory's going to be a C tier as well. If Rory didn't have the weird mustache, I think Rory would be much higher. I understand what Rory's supposed to be. He's supposed to be like those Japanese lions that you see in the statues. I get it. I'm just not a huge fan of the mustache. If the mustache was gone, I probably would have put him at a B tier, but I think he's a C tier. Besides that, I love the color palette. It's very unique. The eyes are just a bit too small as well for my take, but, you know. Next we have Rowan, a, like, Tigger Tiger. Rowan's going to be a C tier as well. I think the eyes are what really hurts Rowan. The eyes are just too small and too close together. I think if they're just a little bit bigger and spread out, Rowan would be like a solid B or A tier. I think he's a really good design besides the eyes, unfortunately. Who's supposed to be before him was Rudy. Rudy's an interesting cat. I don't think I've ever seen this villager before. The eyes are a bit off-putting, but I'm gonna have to put Rudy at an A tier, to be honest. This is such a unique design. It's very pleasing to me. It reminds me of my squirrel that I have. I like the colors as well. It's a nice, like, burgundy, which kind of goes with the color of his eyes, which are yellow, with a nice, like, yellow gradient in his ears and a nice, like, white fur on his face. I think Rudy's actually a really good design. Next up, we have Samson. Samson's going to be a C tier. I think the mouth works, but it doesn't work with the eyes. The eyes are just too high up and small. If they're a bit lower and more centered and bigger, and then I think it'll work a lot more. But not much more I can say. Up next, we have Scoot. Honestly, it's not a huge gimmick for Scoot. I'm going to put Scoot at a very high A, though. I think Scoot's design works really well. The eyes are perfectly shaped, perfectly distanced, especially with the swim cap covering most of the head. I love the swim cap on it. And it's funny that a duck is wearing a swim cap as well. The color palette works really well, especially with the pink cheeks. I think it's super great. Next up, we have Sheldon. Sheldon's going to be a C tier. The color palette, I love. The markings, I love. The eyes are just what kill it for me. They're just too small. If the eyes were better, I probably would put it like a high B or maybe an A. But the eyes are just killing it for me. I'm a big stickler for eye shape and how they're positioned on the face, because that can really make or break how a villager looks. But unfortunately, it just looks eh. Next up, we have Sly. So Sly is two different types of camo. Sly's going to be a B tier, because I love the camo, not a huge fan of the coloring. But I love the eyes. These eyes are amazing. These are like true reptilian eyes, and I think that's so cool. Next up, we have Snake. Snake's going to be an S tier. Snake's a ninja bunny. I love the gimmick. I love that it's a ninja bunny. I think the pink really bounces well off the blue. The face is a bit odd, but it works for me, surprisingly. Just because I think the proportions just work really well with the shape of a bunny head. It looks super nice. I really, really enjoy Snake's whole gimmick. After Snake, we have Sparrow. I think Sparrow's going to be a C tier. It's the same thing, the eyes. The eyes are a bit bigger. I would put it at B tier. I think the patterning is super nice. The color palette's a bit boring, but I do like bits of it, but I'm not a huge fan of the eyes. It's just a bit too small. Next up, we have Sprocket. Sprocket's going to be an S tier with the robot brother. I just think it's really cool to have these robot villagers. I think it's super nice, and they look really well. They come off really, really good. I really like them. If I had more room on my island, I'd definitely take Ribot and Sprocket. After that, we have Sterling, one of the knights. S tier. I love the gimmick of the knights. I think it works really well. I like that they're both birds, chicken and an eagle. Sterling just looks super nice. Just without like his helmet, his coloring looks super nice, and the way that they position the eyes works really well because of the helmet. If it was just a regular eagle, the eyes would be much too forward and small. But because the helmet looks really nice and the gimmick of the actual knight works, and then you can't see it on this picture, but his feet actually are done up to look like he's wearing armor on them. So I think that's super cool. Next up, we have Stinky. Stinky is going to be a C tier. I like the gimmick of him being like a luchador, but his eyes, man. The eyes and the color palette are just bad. It's like a weird, like, puke green. Like a puke moldy, like, milk green. The eyes are just too small. They're too small. Next up, we have Tad. Tad's going to be a B tier. I love the face. Like, I love the nostril, the mouth, and the eyes. The only thing is the color palette. The color palette's too safe. There's no, like, pattern. If it had a nice unique patterning to it, I would put it at A tier with the other frogs, but because it's just a plain color, it's gonna be a B tier. After that, we have Tank. I think Tank's a B tier. He's a basic rhino. The eye's a bit too small, but it works kind of. Just a basic rhino color, nothing super special. Next up, we have Teddy. Teddy's kind of rough. I think it works. I think the face works really well. The color palette works, but it's a bit boring. I think because of that, I'm gonna put Teddy at a B. But he works really well. Like I would take him, and I would take him, but I would also leave him. He's a good-looking bear. And he's typically what you would expect, I guess. And the last Jock villager is Tybalt. I think Tybalt's a B tier as well. I think his eyes are a great proportion of his eyebrows, and they're very well spaced apart, unlike this guy right here. He's like a tiger cheetah type of design. I do like it. I like the brown on the yellow. The gray hoodie actually bounces really well. I think it looks good. But this was my Jock ranking. There's fewer Jocks than other personality types, and I tried to do this much faster so it won't drag on. But my S tier are Dom, Ribbot, Snake, Sprocket, and Sterling. I think these, like with the gimmicks and then just the meme ability and how nice Dom looks, I think this is a justified S tier in my mind. There's a lot more B tiers, but very few Ds, which is good. Only 3 Ds, quite a few Cs, a lot of Bs, and quite a few As as well. Jocks have really well designed villagers. So I'm not sure which other ones are left besides Peppy. I'm gonna have to take a look. I think there's 1 or 2 more left before Peppy. So I'm leaving Peppy for last, considering Audie and quite a lot of my favorite villagers are in the Peppy personality. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the tier list. Let me know what your S tier was. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the new update to Animal Crossing as well. I'm mainly waiting for Halloween for Animal Crossing because I love Halloween as a holiday and I really want to experience the spooky, scary season. Also want to see winter. I think winter is going to be really nice to see. But regardless, guys, if you like this video, leave a like. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, hit the bell. And as always, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Goodbye, everyone.